As part of the conversion of my website over to WordPress, I also installed CiviCRM. And so CiviCRM requires a cron task or a routine scheduler that kicks off various maintenance processes, whether hourly or daily. And so what I did was I wrote a shell script as well as downloaded the CiviCRM command line interface tool that would allow me to do all of that. So I'm going to cover that and a little bit more in this video. What's going on, fellow engineers? Thank you for checking out this video once again. So here we have the shell script that I created for running CiviCRM Cron. And so the reason that you have to do that in CiviCRM, you have a series of maintenance processes. They're referred to as scheduled tasks in the system, scheduled jobs. And so I'm going to administer system settings and schedule jobs will bring you to this page. And so there are various tasks such as cleaning up temporary data, checking for updates, checking emails, whether it's processing emails or fetching emails that have bounced from your subscriptions. And so they run at various intervals. And in order to accomplish that, CiviCRM requires that you set up a task scheduler or a cron job. And so what I did was I found out that there was a way that that could be done using the CiviCRM command line tool. And so if you go to the CiviCRM website, you can download this cv.far file or car. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I'm assuming because it has a PH, it's far, like far, far away. And so what it does is it allows you to run various things in CiviCRM and perform various actions. It is similar to the WP command line or WordPress command line interface, where you have to run it and it gives you a number of things. And so if you run it like I just did here, you actually have to run PHP and then pass the file name as a argument to the PHP call, because it is actually a PHP script of sorts. And so you have a number of options here. You can make a call to the APIs. You can call the command line interface. You can do various things here. I'm not going to go through everything. And so one thing that you can do is to run the cron process. And so I have that pulled up. And so here is the shell script that I have. If you want to use this in your CiviCRM installation, you can go to the repository for my website. I'll have a link to the repository down in the description below, and you can make a copy of this script. And so basically what it does is it checks, it starts off with the current date, and this URL provides more information about where I got the concept of how to build this script out. But it starts with the current date, and the reason I put the current date in here is so you can see when it started and when it ended. I'll probably make some more adjustment to this before actually rolling it out to my production environment. But it's checking to make sure that argument 1 is not empty. And the reason being is because argument 1 is going to be the current directory of where your WordPress install is. And the reason being is because it needs to know where WordPress is on the file system in order for it to go from there down into the file system to the CiviCRM stuff to be able to run the necessary commands that it has to run. And so what this command does, it just prints out the path that was passed in as argument 1 to the script, and then you call in PHP and then the cv.far file. And then the next part is you're making an API call to do job execute, and you want to run that job execution as user cron civi. This user will depend on how you have yours set up, but you need to create a user account that will be used to run the cron jobs. And then you need to set the current working directory to the location that your WordPress install is located on the file system. And so if you don't pass in this $1, it throws an error basically saying you need to run it, and I actually need to update the script name because I have changed it But basically script name and then the folder root, where folder root is the top level of your WordPress project. And then that is it. And so when you do run this, and I'll go ahead and run it for you now. All right, so I'm going to do dot, or I can do bash. Either way works because it is a bash script. And so is CiviCRM _cron.sh. And then I am going to do the path to my WordPress directory, which it is in my home. And so if I hit enter, and you get this output afterwards. And so again, this is the start date and time. This is the end date and time. This is the path location that I passed in. And this section right here is the JSON API response that CiviCRM has returned back. And if you get a is error is equal to anything other than 0, that means something did not go right, and you'll need to check out the logs. Usually if something does go wrong, there may be a little bit more output than these lines that it did return. The log error will show up in CiviCRM. So you could just log into CiviCRM and look there to see what the problem may be. So that pretty much covers that part of things. And then the last thing is that you will need to run this shell script via a cron tab or schedule task. So now I will cover that particular part. So on my system, I have cron tab. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And as you see, I have the second item here, which runs that CiviCRM Cron script. And I have it running every 15 minutes. However, it's not necessary to have it running 15 minutes. At a minimum, I would suggest you run it every hour because there are some hourly tasks in there that have to be performed. And that also depends on the amount of volume of traffic on your website. If you have a whole lot of volume, an hour is definitely recommended. If you don't have as much volume, you could probably get away with 2 or 3 or even 12 hours for the frequency. And so basically it is the same command that I ran. So I am using the full path to the executables. And the reason being is because sometimes when you start a cron job, depending on the system, it starts in the root of the file system. It may start in the home of the user that's running that cron job. It all depends. So to be very explicit, use the full path because depending on where it starts, it may or may not load that RC file and the path variable, which will have the reference to /bin already populated. So that's why in the command line, you can type bash and it knows bin bash, but in cron it doesn't necessarily load that, so it's best to type the full thing so it's not guessing. And so giving the full path to the shell script, and then I'm giving the full path to that directory, and then I am outputting all of the results from the command that's being ran into a log file that is in my home directory, and then I'm combining any errors into the standard out, and all of that goes into that same log file. That way I don't have 2 files that I have to check. Everything is in one file and it's in the order that it occurred. And so I will also show you this log file. And so we go here and do cat, because the contents are not that long. And so here you see we have the same thing from when I ran it on the command line, date, the path, and the JSON response, and then the end date and time. So that will wrap it up for this particular video. If you need help setting up your cron job on CiviCRM, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram and Twitter. You can also reach out down below by leaving a comment with whatever issue that you're having, and I'll be sure to respond back to you with any advice or suggestions that I can offer. Also, feel free that if this video has helped you, give it a thumbs up, and you can check out my website, thealmostengineer.com, where I'll have more information related to this and CiviCRM there available for you to read up on. So until next time, peace out.